It is Tuesday, July 22nd, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You are watching the All 32 Pod. I'm Mike Giardi. He, of course, is Will Parkinson. We're a proud member of the CLNS Media Network. Show brought to you by Prize Picks, North America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 when you play 5. Prize Picks, run your game. Will, everybody's going to say how pumped up they are. It's football season. I got to tell you, just feels like the first day of school. I got the Sunday scaries a little bit because I know, like, if you look at it big picture wise, I'm about to have my life disappear for the next 6-7 months.
Yep.
However, we are covering a game. I will settle into a routine. I will love watching the football. But just for a brief minute today when I woke up, I was like, God dang it. There goes my summer.
Yeah, Jamal Adams signing with the Raiders didn't really get you fired up, Mike, in the year 2025.
No,
look, I think I talked about this yesterday on another pod that, it was like, hey, how do you feel? I was like, the dead period up until the All-Star break, you got baseballs going and, into the playoffs, the finals, things like that kind of gets you through OTA's minicamp. And then there's this 4 to 5 day stretch during the All-Star break where baseball, rightfully so, has a couple-day intermission, but there's no hockey. There's the WNBA. There's some MLS. Even like the Club World Cup's over. There's just nothing on. There was no sports. And then it's like, bang, trade deadline, camps open, NBA training camps will open in 6 weeks. It's like, whoa, what just happened?
Right.
So days of the beach every day are unfortunately over. And we're back into sitting and getting really horrible tan lines, watching mainly crappy practices.
Yeah, right. And that's the other thing, too, is like everybody gets geared up. Oh, day 1 of training camp is Wednesday for the Patriots. Yada, yada. Like, guys, they're not in pads until probably Monday at the earliest. So even this is because of the CBA, which, again, protects the players as much as the players can be protected playing a full contact sport like this, but it gives them a little ramp up period. But I did want to kick off with that. The Patriots today had some availability. Mike Vrabel speaking to us for about 20 minutes today. And, look, I've been able to, when I worked at the NFL Network, cover some of Vrabel's training camp practices and some of the press conferences and things like that. And to me, the Vrabel training camp is going to be kind of what you saw already in the spring. Well, the fans didn't see it, but we did, in terms of lots of movement, a lot of hands-on coaching from all the coaches. Really, the coaches really getting truly involved. Vrabel, offense, defense, special teams. He's here, there, and he's everywhere. But I did find it fascinating. One of the first things he told us when he was hired in January was like, we have to figure out how to beat bad teams. And as a bad team, one of the worst in the league last year, maybe the worst, if not for a Week 18 game against the Buffalo Bills, that's a challenge. And so he was asked today, did you see enough during this period of time here where you had the guys in the spring that makes you think like, hey, we're getting closer to that goal? And he said, absolutely. But one of the things that, obviously we haven't really practiced full-on football yet, so there's that. He also said, I'm showing the players the good, the bad, and the shit that gets you beat. And his former head coach in New England, Bill Belichick, loved to hammer the bad over and over again. And Vrabel sort of went into his answer. He's like, you can't keep showing him that because as a player, after a while, you just get sick of it. Like, oh, I need to see that I screwed this up again. Like, I get it. All right, move on. So he's trying to find that balance between, hey, here's the good things that we did. Here's the things in between. And here's the stuff that, again, when we get to Sundays in the regular season or Thursdays, Mondays, whatever you play, that if we do this, that's the thing that will kill us, whether it's against good teams and certainly when it's against bad teams where, hey, now you look at their schedule, you think to yourself, well, like I know some people have gone crazy with it, but you think to yourself, like, is there a pathway to 500? Is there a pathway to playing meaningful football in December? And who knows if that leads to a playoff game in January. And part of that is simply that, right? Beat the bad teams on your schedule or beat the teams that are in the same bucket as you are. And the Patriots haven't done that for 2-3 years, really 4 of the last 5. Like it's been that sort of stark for them at this point.
Yeah, I think we talk about this quite a lot, Mike, and it applies to the Patriots this year. It applies to pretty much everybody. But the notion always is you win your division home games, you beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and you split the rest. And if you do that, you'll find yourself, generally speaking, playing football games in January and February. That's just the reality of it, right? Like, if you're the Patriots, You got to win at least Miami and the Jets home games. You got to try to steal one of those two on the road, and you got to try to steal one from Buffalo, and you put yourself in a good position to either finish first or second in the division. That's the way it usually works. We talk about this so much in baseball. I know I use baseball references a lot, but it's true where, they beat up on the AL Central or this team. Yeah, man, that's who's on the schedule.
Right.
You got to stack up wins. Like at the end of the year, they don't really matter whether you win them in April or you win them in October or you win them in September. I apologize. In baseball, like they all count the same. The Red Sox win 10 in a row or they lose 10 in a row. Doesn't really effing matter when it is, because at the end of the season, the schedule is 162 games. Football is the same way, right, Mike? Where they go out and they lose to beat a bunch of bad teams early on, and they lose a bunch of it doesn't matter when you win them. I mean, it does, yes, obviously. My point at the end of the day, but from a Patriots perspective, I think under Vrabel, the reason I think me and you and many others are so confident in the fact that he can do a good job here is raising their floor. I don't feel like there's a lot of teams where even if they're even with them, can they take advantage of them being a bad football team? And you mentioned that there. So to me, it feels like clean, smart, savvy football can Mike outcoach 75% of the coaches around the league and give them a chance in every game. I think that's why me and you both feel good about maybe more so the Patriots and Jets than the Dolphins, is that we don't know that at this point in time they're capable of doing so.
A couple other notes from him. One, Terrell Williams, the defensive coordinator, who has been away from the team for months with a health scare that we haven't totally learned what it was, but he stayed back in Detroit for basically the entire spring, although he still was meeting with the players through Zoom. He is back, and as Mike said, he's not on any list, no NFI or no PUP. Terrell Williams, defensive coordinator here, has been with the team the last couple of days, and as Vrabel said, as far as he knows, there are no restrictions to Williams, so that is a good sign for the first-year defensive coordinator, but someone obviously who's been coaching in the pro game and coaching under Vrabel for some time. And then there is Stefon Diggs, who was, as we saw, not on the PUP list, and that has not changed. He has passed his physical. He is cleared. He is a full go. Vrabel did say
the vote wasn't really a big deal at all, Mike. After he was going to get cut, and the whole thing really didn't matter.
Well, it mattered in the sense that they were annoyed by it. I think it got their attention, and then I think they got his attention. And we'll see. Look, Steph's going to have to get on the boat. The boat's going this way, dude. And I know you've been this guy over here, but you got to be on it with us, not with Cardi B and whatever else was going on there. So Vrabel did say, when asked if there'd be a pitch count, he said, look, different guys are going to be in different phases. You might not see a guy in individual. You might see him in team. But thus far, he says there are no limitations on what Diggs can do. And look, we've talked about it. That will be massive for the football team, even if he's not I don't expect 2021 Stefon Diggs. But if you even get the Diggs of the first half of last year in Houston before he tore the ACL, then that's huge, because it sort of sets the order, if you will, for the receiver position, and everybody else can fall in line. You have someone that can command targets and attention, and that should make Pop Douglas better. That should make Mac Hollins better. That whatever on down the line, Kyle Williams, the rookie. So I think that was big news. And again, now we'll see. We'll see what kind of player he is over the next month. See really where the knee is at in terms of how many reps and how does he look.
Yeah, no, Mike, I wanted to ask you quickly. And look, Diggs is going to be. We're not going to know until it's in game speed. We're just not. I think we saw the OTA clip, and some people thought it was the coolest thing they've ever seen. Some people thought it didn't matter much. I'm somewhere in the middle. I thought it was impressive he was that far along. I also think it was a practice in shorts where he was going 60% of the speed. So I transparently don't really care until I see it. Mike was a little testy today. And I know there's been a lot of talk in the New York market, and I disagree with a lot of it. People seem to be very annoyed with Aaron Glenn that he doesn't give the way he speaks, and he's very intense. He's not going to, if you ask him a dumb question, he's going to give you a dumb answer. Play stupid games, get stupid prizes. Glenn's gone after, people a bunch. And it's going to come down to whether they win. Mike was a little testy today, and I'm curious from your perspective. Is this, Mike, we talked about this when he was interviewing, and we talked about this specifically with the Jets job, that you were like, hey, this is how Mike is. And you talked about him down in Tennessee. Is this going to be a trend, or is this more Mike kind of just trying to lay down his nuts on the table and say for lack of a better
yeah, well, look, so in his, I'm not defending him. I don't need to defend him. Somebody asked the exact same question. It had just been asked, and that person the questioner wasn't paying attention. He's like, "Are you punking me? Like, honestly, I just answered it for like 5 minutes." So one of the things that I've told you here, and I've tweeted or whatever I've written about, is Mike can't stand if you're not prepared. So that doesn't just matter for his football team. It matters for the people that are asking him questions. And to your point, play stupid games, get stupid prizes. Like that was what that was. Like, be on your toes. Don't waste my time with a question that I just answered. Like, you want to hit a finite point that I just mentioned. Like, okay, that's one thing when we're sort of breaking down your answer and you want to focus on this one part. You literally asked the same question, and he's not gonna tolerate it. He's gonna zip you, and I will get zipped at some point this year. Mike Reese, Phil Perry, it'll happen to all of us, but I can promise you that I'm not going to get zipped because I wasn't paying attention. I can promise you that won't happen. And we'll see. Like, again, if Mike does this and they go 3-14, then it'll be a talking point. Like, oh, he can't handle the heat. If they go 12-5 and he's firing these off once a week or twice a week, everybody like, look, this is awesome. Like, he's taking back the team and he's showing you guys who's boss. Like, nobody really cares at the end so long as they win. Let's move on to our preview and take a deep dive in the NFC. Actually, before we do that, jumping ahead, Terry McLaurin, no show. We knew Trey Hendrickson. We're not going to get into that. Shamar Stewart, we've talked about that ad nauseum. Terry McLaurin does not show up. I still don't understand why this isn't done, because to me, Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin were awesome last year. Terry McLaurin is so far and away their best receiver. Even if you get another Zach Ertz throwback year, he's a tight end. He's older. He's in the middle of the field. Like, McLaurin wins on the outside. McLaurin wins over the middle. He wins everywhere. I don't understand what's taking so long. And they're trying to be nice about it. You know, you heard them talk today, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, like, hey, we're trying to meet halfway and we want to get this done. Dude, just write the damn check and get it done, right?
Yeah, and get it done. I actually, this and the Hendrickson thing, I think are stupid because, well, I don't know what you're going to be. They're either haggling over guaranteed money or years, and both guys are older players, but there's both two teams trying to win now. They're two guys who have been paid previously by those organizations and outdone their contracts. This is a natural progression in the NFL. I'm not sure anyone's surprised. And Mike, I say this for the 800th time. If you're not going to pay somebody, then move them. It's really simple. Because if you're the Steelers, why didn't you get TJ Watt done 2 weeks, 2 months, a year ago? Now it costs you way more money.
Could have probably saved themselves $10 million too.
I'm not, to be honest, we'll talk about it when we get to the North, but like I don't love that deal. I mean, his numbers were way down last year analytically, and not getting younger. And I know you had to pay him, but like it's pretty much a fully guaranteed $120 million over 3 years. That was not like you look at Sauce and Garrett's deals, who we talked about. Those are really 2-year deals, and the Jets could easily get out of Sauce before they ever pay him more than $20 million. You're not getting out of that. One other note, Mike, besides Hendrickson and McLaurin, and it will lead us into the South. We knew Tristan Wirfs was going to be going on PUP. I thought it was outrageous that the Bucs even put an expectation that Chris Godwin would be ready for week 1, and maybe he still will be. Maybe. Mm-hmm. He also goes on PUP. Godwin was week 7, Mike, and the injury, I think it's Dan Pompey. I could be wrong. Wrote a really good piece on Godwin.
Yeah, it was.
There was a lot more into that injury than I think I even realized. I thought it was just a dislocated ankle. It was like a broken leg as well, ligaments. I think there was a lot in there. I can't remember. There was one other injury in there too. So I would be pretty surprised if we saw either guy before week 4. It seems like Wirfs is already out to week 4. Godwin, I think they're going to probably try to slow play and hold out hope, but that's a lot of like, those are two of their 4 best offensive players, in my opinion. And that's already an offense that I feel like is a good group. That's a new coordinator and things like that. That came out this morning or 5 minutes ago, and I was like, man, Godwin, I thought they were going to try to maybe like pretend like early on. Jermaine Johnson, another big name on PUP. That's not surprising as well. The Achilles. I don't know if I missed anybody else. There was one other guy. We said the Adams thing. There's just a lot of moving pieces as teams reported.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get into that NFC South preview, and we'll start with Tampa because they won the division last year, want to remind you, what are you doing? Sign up for Prize Picks. It is the best daily fantasy sports app out there. Over 10 million members, billions and billions of dollars that can be won there. All you do is pick more or less on 2 up to 6 players in certain statistical categories, and you can win up to 2,000 times your money. I hammer this home all the time, especially now, as you mentioned, we're starting to get back into the calendar of full swing. But right now, okay, there's a little baseball here, there's a little WNBA there, maybe some soccer, but you can cross all those sports and combine whatever. If you think Aaron Judge is going to hit a home run, you take more on his totals. Which, by the way, that's a good, easy bet.
Can we wager on Anthony Volpe errors, because I'd like to take the more?
I saw something where Volpe had the second worst batting average or third worst batting average in baseball since July 1st. That's not great. 3-week sample size, I guess. We'll see.
34, Mike, over his last month.
Yeah. Hey, look, the Red Sox the other night lost on a catcher's interference in extra innings. I think it's only the second time it's ever happened in Major League Baseball. So anyway, my point is, get involved with Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get 50 off your first $5. Again, download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get 50 off your first 5. Prize Picks runs your game. Now to the NFC South and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were 10-7 last year, won the division. Total DVOA, 11th overall in the league, 7th on offense, 16th on defense, 26th on special teams. So shore that up a little bit. As always, I'll start with what we like. That everyone's back, basically. You were just talking about it on offense and actually on defense. The whole crew is back. Even coaching staff. Todd Bowles got his contract extension. Jason Light, the GM, got his contract extension. Godwin got his big money extension, even though he left $30 million plus from the Patriots on the table. Levante David is back for another year, and Levante David is headed to the Hall of Fame one day. So that, I think, is great for continuity. Everybody knows what's expected. A couple new faces, Hassan Reddick, maybe get into a little bit down the line here.
I'll certainly be touching on that one at one point.
Yes. Terrific offensive line, although, as you mentioned, Wirf's probably looking at least a month before he's back on the field in terms of regular season, maybe beyond that. So that will challenge them a little bit. But again, the core of that group is back, and they've been pretty good. Last year, 8th in rushing DVOA. So Bucky Irving, who I think is pretty dynamic, but he really flourished behind that offensive line. And with the play calling of Liam Cohen, of course, now is with Jacksonville, first-time coordinator Josh Grizzard, who was on the staff. He's been elevated into that role. They used a lot of screens to get the ball out of Baker's hands quickly, get it to Irving, get it to some of the wide receivers, let them make plays. And lastly, even though everybody's back, and I mentioned guys like David, who's been around forever, they're the 4th youngest team in the league. So there's still a good foundation of young players coming through, supplementing them with the Godwins and the Mike Evans types, and Baker, who's now, I guess Baker theory is in his prime, right? Coming off a 41 touchdown pass season. So that, to me, is what I like. How about you?
Yeah, I like, again, bringing back majority of the core. I think some continuity there. I think they were the best team in the division, and I don't see why that necessarily changes again this year. I like the fact that, as much as I don't know that Bowles is in that upper echelon of coaches, I think they won the division 3 years in a row. Like, at the end of the day, he's done a really good job. And, maybe it's not quite to the job that Arians did, which is what getting him a title, but the Bucs have always had these like little spurts, them and the Marlins. It's like, they'll be really good for a year, and then they crater, and they're like the superstar team and the big expectations, and it all goes away. He's kind of brought them some stability. So I like bringing him back. I think their offensive core, especially from a weapons perspective, is about as good as it gets in the league. On paper, at least, I think you like the backs. Obviously, as you mentioned, Irving, White. I think obviously Baker's been really good. I think I had Baker, at 11? We had 11 or 12 maybe. So, hey, there's a lot to like. And I like that they play in a terrible division. For their own sake. To show you what I don't like, and I think there's a couple of glaring things to me is why I can't put them in that Super Bowl window as of yet. I think they'll be a playoff team. I think they'll win the division again. They'll probably fall somewhere between 9-8 and 10-7. They'll beat up on a lot of bad teams. They're competitive enough with the good teams, but they're not quite there, in my opinion. One, I don't think that Bowles is quite to that level in big games. So again, I like the stability, but I don't know if I love this. Him and McDermott, kind of similar vibes, where it's like they're really well prepared each week, especially for bad teams. When it gets to like Bucks Rams or Bucks Eagles, it's like, I don't know if I trust. Oh, maybe Bucks Eagles isn't a good example because we'll get to the Eagles when we get to the Eagles. But I thought they spent money on Hassan Reddick that was absolutely moronic. I can't. Maybe Reddick will be engaged. Probably not, since he held out of OTAs and minicamp after getting a new deal. That guy doesn't like football at all. I usually hate criticizing players to this extent. Like, he's the most unprofessional player I've ever been around. Bar none. Last year was a joke. And that guy was a guy playing for a contract extension. He held out for majority of the season. He came back, gave zero effort, refused to speak to the media, refused to it was a disaster. And I didn't understand why that was a day one of free agency, $15+ million to a guy who hasn't really been good in 2 years and is on the wrong side of 30. And again, has zero motivation. He's won a ring. He's been paid. Like, there's nothing there. I had to rip it. I didn't understand that at all. And I think my biggest issue with the Bucs, and what I don't like, is Mike, they're old at some certain spots, and they're old or injured. And majority is what I'm looking at a receiver. On paper, their receivers are awesome. And I like Evans, Godwin, Abuka. Like, there's even go to McMillan, like there's a Shepard's your 5. It's like, wow, man, like they're a really good group. But at the same time, we're also asking this, like, do we know that Mecca Abuka is going to be able to step into a number 1 role at one point? Because Mike Evans is going to miss 2 to 4 weeks or play 2 to 4 weeks with a hamstring. It's a mortal lock. Look it up. Every year, the right or left hamstring gets strained. Doesn't mean that he's not an amazing player still. He's going to get banged up at a point. Godwin, we know, is probably not going to be right in the beginning of the year, let alone, I don't know if he's going to be right until, honestly, next year. Like, this is a really serious injury, and he's an amazing character, player, the whole thing. But, like, we saw last time when he tore the ACL, it took him a year. And then last year he was having a career year. So my worry is, like, it goes from awesome to, and this is depth, this is with any team, but what if Mike Evans is, got old? We talked about it with Devontae. We talked about it with some of these other guys. Like, there's that possibility. No one's immortal in this league. We saw Julio Jones go from Julio every year, pencil in 1,400 to, like, I was like, whoa, who's that guy? Even Andre Johnson, we talked about all those guys. So I'm a little worried about. I like the young guys at receiver. I just think they're a lot nicer as 3, 4, and 5 than they are as 1, 2, and 3. And then, as I mentioned, I thought the Reddick signing was moronic, and I feel like the defense is not quite. It's a good group, but it's very reliant on, like, Kancey taking a next step. Can Logan Hall take the next step? Is Vita, can Vea and David and Winfield be those core pieces? But corner, to me, can Benjamin Morrison step in? Like, I just think they're at this weird intersection, Mike, where it's older veterans that won the title, that they're all really good players still. But older players tend to get hurt a little bit more or tend not to have it week to week. And I just think they're asking a lot of – they've done a good job, but they've asking a lot out of Morrison, Hall, Kancey, McMillan, Abuka. Like, those guys have to step up, and Irving in year 2 for them to be in that title. Because we're talking about the Bucs in a different window, in my opinion. They're not – I'm not talking about them as just this bad division winner that, like, that gets in at 8 and 9. I think they're a team that – most people think could beat anybody in the league. So I'm grading them off that scale. And to me, maybe they're either missing a piece or I need to see how it looks, before I'm all in on them.
It's funny with Bowles as a defensive coach. I think the defense has sort of just been meh. They're like, again, they were 16th in
DVOA. Been around for a while. We know what he's going to do. A lot of safety blitzing.
There's a predictability in what he does. And you would think that he would have pushed it further now. And to me, just from a micro, like the pass rush to me is, Yaya Diaby, Chris Braswell. Can he take a step forward, in year 2 from Alabama? We're talking about a second-round pick.
Like it's like names we loved, right? Like all these guys we like in the draft or that look really good on paper. It's just like, I just don't feel like it's asking a lot that all these guys need to kind of step up.
Yeah, and I would say if Hassan Reddick is a double-digit sack guy, then –
sure.
You could tell me that the Buccaneers are in the NFC Championship game, and I wouldn't be surprised. You could also tell me that he gets cut in week 6 and that they're desperately searching for someone to play.
Just disappears.
Yeah, like that's just the way it is. My X factor, healthy wide receiver. You mentioned it. Evans, Godwin, the two of them combined to play just 21 of 34 games last year. Evans is good to miss a few games every single year with the hamstring, right? It's just that's the way it is. So to me, if those guys are healthy enough and you can get more than 21 out of 34 games from the two of them, then Baker should be right around 35, 40 touchdown passes again.
I'm going to read you something, Mike, because people are going to be like, you guys are hating on Mike Evans. I'm not. Mike Evans, right? He's had, injuries throughout his career. He had, an ab pull and a groin early on in his career, and he had a sprained ankle back in 2020. Right? So normal injuries. Mike, he has had 7 hamstring pulls, grade 2 hamstring pulls since 2015. Ready for this one?
Yeah.
2015, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, grade 2 hamstring on his right hamstring. I pulled my hamstring. It happens. It keeps happening. So just wanted to put it out there that we're not hating on Mike Evans. We think he's awesome, but he's been in the league for a decade, and 7 of the 10 years he's had a grade 2 hamstring strain.
You know what I don't understand about that is he's made so much money. He's making so much money. You would think at this point he would have hired a fleet of doctors, specialists. Willie McGinnis had this problem in New England when he first got them in New England as a top, whatever, a 3 pick or 4 pick, whatever he was. He constantly had a groin hip thing. Well, he finally, like 4 years in, he figured it out. And all of a sudden he became people around here will tell you he's a Hall of Fame player, but he became a damn good player and an important piece of a championship team for a number of years. It's like, at some point, just invest a little bit more money. Right? Yeah. I don't know. You've got all these resources at your fingertips that you can just pay for whatever, figure it out. He hasn't figured it out. I still think I'm still putting them as a better team than they were last year, or at least the same to me. So that's where I feel. All right, let's go to Atlanta. 8-9, 20th in total DVOA, 14th on offense, 29th on defense, 29th on special teams. Just real quick, I feel like they've been the same team. It doesn't matter whether Hayden Morris, Arthur Smith, the end of Dan Quinn. Of course, they had the 1 year where they go to the Super Bowl. Matt Ryan's the MVP. Kyle's calling the plays. But it's like, I don't know. They feel like they've been an irrelevant middle-of-the-road football team for as long as I can remember, with the exception of that 1 year.
Yeah. I just think they're probably one of the most difficult teams for me to have evaluated that we've done so far. And we've only done 30% of the league or whatever. So with a grain of salt, but they're just tough because I really like a lot of the additions on defense. I love the Jalen Walker pick. No one was higher on Jalen Walker. Maybe one scout I talked to was higher than me on him, but generally speaking, I'm not sure. I think he's going to win defensive rookie of the year. I think he's going to put up ridiculous numbers and he's going to be awesome. Leonard Floyd and James Pierce are low-key kind of the same player, but maybe they can combine into one good player this year. And another year, Jesse Bates. I like the Fuller addition. Is AJ Terrell going to be more of the AJ Terrell from 2 or 3 years ago than he was a year ago? Morgan Fox is a nice pickup. Raheem Morris is a good DC. So they should be much better on defense. But the Falcons every year are a non-paper team, and it feels like every year it's kind of rinse and repeat. Same thing with offense, right? Everyone's going to do the same thing. They're in their fantasy drafts, and they're going to look up. I've been checked out of football for a couple months. What have the Falcons been up to? It's oh my God, Bijan and Pitts and London, Darnell Mooney and all these guys. And it's yeah, but are we going to see it? And is it going to mean stuff at the end of the year? I don't mean to be harsh on them. I kind of think they're a 7-10 to 9-8 team. And it's unless, and the X factor, I'm going to combine it here because I think me and you're going to be on the same page. It's 2-part. One, this offensive line, there is a little bit of changeover. Can they be just as good as they were a year ago? Because they were a really good group. I think they were one of the better groups in football. They all played guys that play all the time and are all above average of their position is a really big deal. And it's Penix, because if Michael Penix takes the leap, this is the same Patriots conversation. It's the Bears conversation that we'll have on both those teams. It's the Vikings. It's all these teams. If he takes the next step and shows a lot more of what he did at the end of last year, they're going to be really good, and they'll probably maybe win 10 or 11 games. If he's just kind of fine, they're going to win 7 or 8 games. They're going to be the same team they were a year ago. So this whole season to me is all about the coach and the quarterback. They are they need to know, Penix is an older prospect, and I'm going to get to what I don't like after you go, but they got to know this coach is the great coach, because I'm not so sure, Mike. I'm just not so sure.
Yeah, a lot there. What I like, the run game. I think it's one of the best run games in the league. It should, again, be one of the best run games in the league. You mentioned the offensive line. 4 of the 5 starters were returning. Those guys have played together for a long time. Losing Dolman is a big deal because he's an upper half of the league at center.
He got a little overhyped in free agency.
Yeah. That's a lot of money for him. But at the same time, it's like there's
not a lot of good centers. You got to pay the ones that are good.
Yep, absolutely. He got to the market at the right time. But I mean, Jake Matthews, Matthew Bergeron, Chris Lidstrom, Caleb McGarry, that's a good core of your offensive line. Bijan running behind them, Tyler Algier, all that. So I think that's fantastic. As you jumped it, I'll jump it. My X factor, you mentioned, I'm just saying it's Morris. Like, real good defensive coordinator. Are you a legit head coach, or are you just one of those guys that should be a DC? To me, it's a prove-it year for him.
It's the biggest I don't like, as I think, for them. I don't trust in a close game that he's going to get it right. I don't. It's not me being a dick and that he's not a likable guy. And it doesn't mean any of that stuff's not true, but there's years of evidence in multiple spots that he doesn't do well with the clock. He doesn't do well with situational football. There's not a great understanding of when to go for it, when not to go for it, when to push buttons, when not to. And the defense, frankly, wasn't I don't think they got some huge improvement from him being the DC. I don't know.
29th is 29th. And that's what I was going to say. What I don't like is the pass rush. And it looks like, based on the spring, that Jalen Walker is going to be played as a true edge. We'll see if that morphs into something more, as he played off ball at times in Georgia and all those different things. And obviously the double down, taking next year's first round pick, and trading up for Pierce.
Trading your first round pick next year.
I mean, look, if James Pierce goes out and sacks the quarterback 12 times and he becomes Hassan Reddick, and I'm talking the good Hassan Reddick, not the one we were just talking about, then I'll shut up. I'll eat my crow. You're great move. Wonderful. But if he doesn't, this could be a top 10 pick, and you gave it away for a guy who can't play the run, and couldn't get on the field for more than 40-something% of the snaps at the University of Tennessee. This is a little bit of a different level for him. So to me, the pass rush has to come together for them. I don't think they had enough. Not that Grady Jarrett was the same player.
You bring up Grady Jarrett, you still lost your franchise.
Yeah, not the same player that he was 2 years ago, but you're replacing him with what? You mentioned Morgan Fox. Morgan Fox is a run-only guy. He's a first down guy, right? Yeah, so I don't know that they did anything in there to put themselves in a better place.
Yeah, I would think of this. They're in a weird spot because I think they have to win. I think Arthur Blank has been pretty clear that this regime's gotten it's not a regime. The Fontenot, group upstairs in Atlanta has gotten. And we can say whatever we want. Bill Belichick was going to be the Falcons coach, and Terry Fontenot won that battle, and it is what it is.
Yeah,
he won the Arthur Blank, Kirk Cousins versus Michael Penix, but he's won a lot of battles. So is he going to win the war? Because if they don't win this year, you're going to tell me Arthur Blank's going to say, "Hey, man, let's run it back again." And this year, Jalen Walker should be on the field 95% of snaps. James Pierce needs to be on the field as much as you can humanly play him, because you got to know what you got in these guys. And again, you got to say, hey man, not a perfect player, but you saw the 6 sacks and he had, 38 pressures and a bunch of we feel really good about we can just expand it a little bit. Even the Jets, with Will McDonald year 1, there's a lot of why'd they make that pick? But there was enough. It was situational, and I wish they actually played him more. They didn't, but you saw enough. You're like, ooh, okay. Year 2, now can we just develop this and can we do this? And we felt good about him. And then he had a breakout year last year. You kind of need to see, especially from a Pierce perspective, this dude needs to play football. God, I need to see him on the field, and I need to see him on the field consistently. If he gets beat, sometimes he gets beat. You got to know what you have in these guys.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to be so lame. I just think they're the same team again.
They're literally going to go 7 and 10.
Yeah, 7, 10, 8 and 9, 9 and 8 if it goes really well. I just don't see.
We're going to get Bucks 9 and 7, Falcons 8-8 or something like that, end of the year, and it's like, ooh, if the Bucks have the tiebreaker, but if the Bucks lose and the Falcons win, and these other 4 things happen based on strength of schedule, then like the Falcons could get in, and the Falcons are going to lose, and the Bucks are going to go 10-7, and then they'll win the wild card game, and it'll be like, oh, the Falcons they pushed the Bucks, and we're going to run this back.
No,
it's just such an obvious
it's
thing.
the same crap, and they won't have enough answers on, or they should have enough answers.
First round pick that they don't have, Mike.
Yes,
they traded for James Pierce.
And they would get absolutely destroyed if there was a big media contingent who covers the Falcons. Alas, there isn't. So I don't know. But there might be a few guys yelling.
They have a cool stadium.
That no one goes to, even when they're good, by the way. Let's move on to this is crazy. The Carolina Panthers, 5-12, 30th in total DVOA, 24th on offense, 32nd on defense, 25th on special teams. I wrote down in my notes, a special kind of suck. That's what the Carolina Panthers were last year. What I like, I like drafting Tet McMillan. We talked about it before during the draft process. Again, not that my favorite kind of receiver. I'm not sure he loves ball. I'm not sure he's physical enough, but he's a 50-50 ball winner. He had some great production in college. Bryce Young is going to put the ball out there for him. Bryce Young throws a lot of 50-50 balls. So can he win the majority of those? If he can, he could have a big year for them, because I think there is a lot of throw it up in Bryce Young's game. They add that to Xavier Legette on the other side, so it gives them another physical receiver as well. I guess they ran great last year. I was kind of looking at the numbers. They were awesome on first down running the ball last year, 5.1 yards per carry. And we know they invested a decent amount of resources into the interior of the offensive line because they wanted to build from the inside out with a smaller quarterback in Bryce Young. They did a pretty good job of that. And Chuba Hubbard he's a good back. Who knows what backs are going to get paid these days, but he's one of those guys, I think, when you have the conversation of best backs in the league, that he's not in that top tier, but he's in that next tier. He's a pretty good player for them. That's it. That's all I got for what I like. I guess you can combine the O-line is solid-ish, but that's not saying much.
I like some of the additions on defense. I don't know if it's enough. I like Mooring a lot. I think that was a really shrewd and really nice signing. I love, J.C. Horn's a really good player. The secondary should be much better. Again, I like Scroton a lot. I like, Princely's a nice player. I don't know if he's an every down player. I think he's more of he bet on himself and it worked, and that's great, but still not fully sold. If you look at their entire defensive depth chart, it is peppered, yellow and red, and it's all additions and things like that. So you'd think, just generally speaking, they can't be worse. But I don't know if drafting Tet, I understand the thinking of, hey, offensive head coach, young quarterback, we want to get the most out of, let's just, give him as many opportunities and weapons as possible. I just still don't know if that's the direction I would have gone in. I know a lot of people love the Tet pick, and maybe it'll end up being a great pick. I'm still felt like, hey, the whole point of having an offensive head coach is to develop the quarterback and maximize it, so you can throw your young talent on defense so that we can balance each other out, and your offensive, head coach can be a little more creative. Same thing on defensive head coach. Look at the Bucs. We just talked about, right? They load up on their offense because they can keep their defense consistent with their defensive coordinator and things like that. So, again, I like some of the additions. I guess what I don't love is I don't know if Canales is actually a good coach yet. I think there were some signs at points last year, especially towards the end of the year. It was okay, the light's kind of coming on a little bit. We're seeing it a little bit. They also got steamrolled a lot last year, and that sometimes happens in year one, but I need to know pretty early on. There's a division with transparently it's not exactly the murderer's row of coaches here. So he's got to solidify himself that he's not in the basement there. Again, I just don't love the amount on defense, as I mentioned. I just thought they did some nice things, but I don't think it's enough. And on offense, they're fine. They're, it's I don't mean to be a dick. It's just they're fine. There's, hey, Legette and Tet and Thielen and Horn and Coker. Sure, that's a nice group, the name value, but Legette's got to catch the football. McMillan's got to be good. Adam Thielen's 58 years old, And even like they paid Tommy Trumbull decent money. Chuba Hubbard's a nice back, obviously. Etienne, like it's names everyone would recognize, but I don't know. Are they like the 21st best offense and the 27th best defense and the 28th coach? Like that's kind of they've done some nice things. Shout out to Mike K. Had a really nice article this morning. They've revamped their whole analytics department. They've made a lot of moves to improve things. And like I do think their arrow is up. It can't really go down. But I don't know. Is their ceiling 7 wins, 8 wins if Bryce is like pretty solid? And that's my X factor, Mike. I'm sure you're going to get to it. I don't know if Bryce was quite as he looked better. He looked like an NFL quarterback, and I think he looked like a little like younger Tyrod, where it's like a little undersized, solid player, accurate football player, but wasn't really going to wow you. Kind of need a lot around you going right, a lot of support, different things. Tyrod's been he's the best 33rd starter in the league for like the last 10 years. I'm unsure, Mike, if Bryce is just a guy or not. And I lean towards my pre-draft notion was he's just a guy that's a really good kid at a great program. And I still kind of feel that way. I'm hopeful for him, honestly. I want to see him succeed. And it'd be really cool for the position of this undersized quarterback and the story of like, hey, he took a benching like a grown-up and like worked on it and did well. That'd be really cool for like our society we're in now where everyone wants, instant gratification. It'd be awesome. But I'm just unsure. I just worry he's like going to always be between 18 and 25. And that's just the guy.
Yeah. I don't like the defense. 32nd last year. You talked about some of the
going to be 2022 or 2023 guy who's going to be a top 10 pick. Cause now we're talking Derek Brown's like, oh, now it's some pieces. Sure. But
Derek Brown's good. That's about Derek Brown's good. JC Horn's good, but JC Horn's never on the field. So like
Derek Brown's never on the field. JC Horn's never on the field. And by the way, Nick Scrun was fat last year. So like and that's why he was a 2nd round pick. So I don't know what we're working with here.
Yeah, and I just want to give you these numbers from Aaron Schatz on Young, who is my X factor for sure. He was last year 31st on deep passes, 31st on first downs, 30th in this is also defense as well. They were 30th in stopping number 1 receivers, 30th on third down. So Bryce Young, there's the defense. I've just combined the two, but Bryce Young, 31st on deep passes, 31st on first downs. Like he just got to be better.
He was like Zach Wilson level bad before he came back. It was really bad. And
you give him credit for bouncing back, but like, what were they really playing for at that point either too? It was like,
you don't want to buy in sometimes to those, like, you want to get excited about some of that stuff, but it's always dangerous. We talked about it with Joe Milton, like, it was cool, but in a way it was a glorified preseason game. And you get nervous of like, is that real? Because sometimes that stuff is real, but then you look at the Matt Flynn, Joe Miltons of the world, and it's like, I don't know how real that really was.
Last one, the Saints, also 5-12, like Carolina, 22nd in total DVOA, 23rd on offense, 21st on D, good on special teams, 7th. What I like, ending the Dennis Allen era. Dennis Allen, classic, really good coordinator, not so much as a head coach, just never quite found the right balance there. And obviously, look, Mickey Loomis is responsible for a lot that goes on there. The way he managed the cap, the amount of dead money they have there is insane. We go through it every year. You're paying a lot of money for guys that are no longer on the roster. And that's difficult. I'm not sure that Kellen Moore is the right guy, but he's not Dennis Allen. So that's a good start. But I also like Derek Carr's not their quarterback anymore. When again, they didn't really control that. He had the shoulder injury. There was some question about was going to have surgery or not. He decides not to. He decides, in fact, to walk away. Actually does them a favor in doing so because he could have just taken their money. He doesn't. Chris Olave, I like. He's really good when he's not hurt. He's been hurt a lot. Ton of concussions there. And I think the offensive line has potential. I think Ruiz is a good player. I think McCoy is a good player. I'm excited to see Banks get a crack at tackle. Now, he might be a guard. We'll see. But he's going to get that first opportunity to be tackle. So I like that. But that's not – I mean, I just said two things that I like are two things that aren't there anymore. So that kind of tells you, again, where the Saints are, where that roster is.
Yeah, if we were doing an odds, making service, Garrett Nussmeier to the Saints with the number 1 overall pick feels like that would be my futures bet. His dad is the offensive coordinator of the Saints, by the way, for people who
followed Kellen Moore from Philly.
So, plays at LSU, dad's the OC, probably will be the first overall pick if he has the year he had last year. Anyways, what I like, the offensive line, a lot of top 40 picks, a lot of top 15 picks. You'd hope Penning kicked inside, Banks, Fuanga, and another year. Can those guys all kind of play to their potential, or at least 80% of it? Because that would be a pretty good group. That's a group that you can build around, of a lot of young guys, a lot of former first and second round picks. Ruiz, I believe, was a second round pick, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. A couple years back. So, there's potential there. So I do like the idea of what they're trying to build. I like Rashid Shaheed. I apologize. I like Kamara. Like, I don't know if he's still the same player anymore. But he's still like a fun player to watch ish when he's playing. I like Olave when he's on the field. Again, as you mentioned, that's just really few and far between. And on defense, Mario Davis is a really fun story. Tyrann Mathieu retired a couple minutes before we, hopped on here. I think Justin Reed's a good player. I think this is probably the last dance for Davis and Cam Jordan. I think this is probably one more year.
Davis has started to slip a little bit. And
Cam's certainly started to slip, but I think he's angling for waiting for a network job to open. He can slide right into. I'm sure NFL Network will turn over. Anyways, I'll make the joke. Mike can't. But in terms of like the rest of things, this roster stinks. This is.
Can I tell you? It just what it's like. I put everything else. That's what I put.
I would trade Alvin Kamara at the deadline as soon as he starts. As soon as he has one good game, move him. I know it's like sounds. Whoa, what are you talking about, dude? They need picks. They need young players. They have a ton of dead cap money. You have a new coach, a new staff. You're going to have a new quarterback this year and probably a new quarterback potentially next year. Just get out from under it. People go to the games. That's a really great fan base. They'll go. They'll understand, like, dude, we've gone all in for 15 years in a row, and we got you a Super Bowl. We've given you multiple title games, playoff games. Like, just bear with us for 12 months. Saints fans are not stupid. They'll get it. Like, that building will still – we're not talking about Falcons fans necessarily don't always show out for their team. I don't think the same can be said for the Saints. I think that they packed that building, and it's awesome. So they've built themselves a year to kind of blow it up, and they kind of did. They've had some older guys walk, but then they go sign Justin Reed. It's like, well, what are you doing there? And
Mickey Loomis is the king of the mixed message. Like, they constantly just – and like, yeah, I don't quite understand. Again, I mentioned the dead cap. They're over $100 million this year in dead cap. Players aren't on their team, either retired, elsewhere, that they're still paying. I mean, I'm not a huge like cap is everything guy at all. I've talked about it all the time that you can do what you want with the cap. You can kick the can down the road generally for a long time if you want. This team's been kicking the can down the road dating back to the last few years of Drew Brees with Sean Payton. And now here we are, it's 2025, and it's like at some point you just have to say that's it. We're taking the L this year. They're going to take the L anyway, but they're spending too much money to take the L. Yeah,
I also, I like Pete Warner. Like, again, they have some nicer pieces. I'd like to see Brian Brzee do something. They have a lot of young talent in this roster. We're like, oh, like I know that guy. I know that guy. I think that guy could do some, some stuff. But generally speaking, I don't think it's a very good roster outside of, again, some pieces on the offense. X factor wise, it'd be really cool for them if Tyler Shough was like a legitimate middle of the road. Could he even be like, people are going to roll their eyes at this. Can he show that he's like a competent swing guy, like a bridge guy? Because there's a place for those guys in the league. And it's important if they're, as an organization, if they are going to be really bad, hey, if they drafted Garrett Nussmeier or somebody, hey, we don't have to play him right away. We can slow play him and take him along. And we have a really cheap, Tyler Shough's basically a veteran at this point. So point being, like, can he show that he's an NFL player, and I can be an NFL guy that can spot start, and maybe he's more than that. But if he just shows that, I actually think that's a win for them. And Kellen Moore too. I talked about the Falcons. I didn't like the hire. I thought, they obviously wanted Aaron Glenn. That was never going to happen. And just, again, can he show that you could trust him? I really dislike Brandon Staley and Kellen Moore as your play callers. I think that is an absolute zero.
I think this is Brandon Staley's last chance to prove that he's something in this league. Like,
he's going to do yoga on the sidelines, or what do we?
Yeah. It's another coordinator job after being a head coach and not doing well at that. He hasn't been a good coordinator since he was with the Rams, in theory. And was that just the Rams?
I was just going to say, now that we've seen Ricky Morris and Staley have a similar issue,
Rams infrastructure more than
the guys does it feel like we have a little Patriots-ish Belichick, where it's like the system's the system. Like Jesse Minter came into San Diego as like a young dude with way less talent and got like 800 times more out of the same group with less talent. That's an indictment more so always to me on the previous guy than a compliment. So I don't know. I don't know what the Saints – I really hope, Mike, they strongly consider at the deadline moving a lot of these veteran guys that are either going to have to pay that they're not going to, or the Kamaras of the world. Hey, give Demario Davis a shot. If, I don't know, some team wants to go compete for a title and they're 1-6, 1-7, like even if it's a 4th or a 5th round pick, like go let, one final ride. It's not like Demario Davis is an all-time Saint in terms of like he's only played there. Cam Jordan's not going to ever go anywhere, right? Like they're going to do right by him. But I don't know. I actually hope they kind of approach this like a good franchise, because they've done really good things over the last 15, 20 years in rebounding since, Katrina and the whole story, obviously, from then on. They've been competitive pretty much every year. I just think sometimes it's okay to say, we're going to bottom out 1 year. It's supposed to be a great quarterback class. We do have some young pieces. This guy might walk into a nice offensive line and an offensive head coach and a couple pieces here, a couple pieces there. We're going to go get your receiver and these different things. They're not going to do it, but I'm like pleading if the Saints are like, trade Pete Warner, Chase Young, like these guys that are not going to be there long term. Warner maybe if you wanted to, but I just go stack up some picks and buy yourself 1 year and go for it another year. It's I would be very surprised if they win more than 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, to me, the X factor is the quarterback. It could be Spencer Rattler. It could be Tyler Shuck. We said, Shuck's probably going to be the guy, but who knows? At least Rattler has
the age of like 60 between those two.
Yeah, Rattler has the 1 year of NFL experience and started a few games for them last year, but I don't expect much.
Remember the Rattler conversation, Mike, after the Senior Bowl? It was like, dude, could this guy be a first-round pick?
Yeah.
And I was like,
No. he not only, no, he shouldn't be. He wasn't, and like he might stick around in the league for a long time, but he might be that, that well-traveled journeyman backup. I think they're going to be worse. I think they're going to be worse by a lot. Like if you told me they were 2-15, I wouldn't be shocked. If you told me that they finally decided to blow up Mickey Loomis, well, actually, I might be shocked by that because it seems like he's made of Teflon. But like, they're not a good team. It's not. I don't see any like surprise scenarios here unless Shuck all of a sudden or Spencer Rattler becomes like a legit middle of the road quarterback in the league. I just don't think they have it. So
no, I don't get it.
Yeah. All right. That's going to put a wrap on this edition. For those of you listening to the show, we ask you subscribe to the podcast. Of course, tell your friends as well. Like and leave a review here, YouTube, Apple, whatever. And for those of you watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit the like button. Subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel so you can get this show and other shows like it, Patriots content and league content. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the next time a new video drops. We will talk to you again at the end of the week when everybody is in and camp is going full bore. Well, at least everybody's in camp. Pads not till next week, but that'll do it.